Welcome everyone. And what are we going to talk about today, Sergeant Jerry?
Well, Detective Michele, today is day 36 of bail reform in the state of New York.
Ooh.
The hits just keep on coming with bail reform, don't they? It's like a never-ending parade of criminal defendants walking in the front door of the courthouse and out the back door.
The revolving door of justice.
Crazy. Absolutely
Yes.
crazy. I would like to open up, Michele. I don't know if a lot of our listeners know this, but Michele Durant, my partner, to my right, your left, if you're watching at home, is a comedian.
Yeah.
I see that the birthplace of Lucille Ball is in the news for bail
Jamestown,
reform.
New York.
Yes. They are overwhelmed with people not showing up for court.
That's no way to treat Lucille Ball's fame, desecrating her name like that with this bail reform. It affects everybody. It affects us comedians, too.
Yeah, it's right. Because, comedians, like anybody else, like plumbers or contractors or nannies, are victims of crime.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone's boosting cars or boosting Amazon boxes off of stoops or whatever the hell they're doing, if they're never going to be kept out of circulation,
that's right.
They're going to keep doing their thing.
That's right. There's some comedy club owners that should be part of this bail reform. I'd like to see them going in and out, in and out. You know what I mean? They're shysters, those guys, some of them. Not all of them, just some of them.
No names will be mentioned here on.
We don't mention any
Inside,
names. We don't give up anybody.
Inside Blue 360. We'll only share at the bar over a cocktail, and it'll be an official off-the-record conversation.
That's right. Everything's right. We don't do off the record here. We don't do no names, nothing. I don't know anything.
So
what homicide?
Yeah, what homicide. So pretty famous case for bail reform this week. Actually happened about 200 yards from my house.
Ooh.
In Bay Ridge in the 68th precinct.
6'8".
Yeah, a woman was in the subway station at the 95th Street station on the R train. Our producer Phil is a former transit cop. I'm sure he's stood there by the slam gate in the past. And a woman went into the ladies' room and...
well, that was her first mistake. It's
yeah.
not a ladies' room if you go into the bathroom in the subway.
Yeah, so she...
it's a trench.
She was unfortunately attempted rape by a guy who was released from court under the bail reform.
Mm-hmm.
So in Jamestown, New York, is a small town. Only 23,000 people.
Yep.
And last month they had 234 people given desk appearance tickets. Now, for our non-police listeners or non-New York State police listeners, a desk appearance ticket is a legal document that requires someone to appear at court at a later date.
Mm-hmm.
And generally in Jamestown, people show up at court with their desk appearance tickets. And last month, they had 234 of them, and 107 people didn't show up.
Oof, that's a disappearance ticket.
That's a disappearance ticket.
That's a disappearance ticket in Jamestown. What's going on there, guys?
So Jamestown, where the Comedy Hall of Fame is...
Lucille Ball. Lucille
Yes.
Ball's up there.
Things aren't funny in Jamestown now.
She's not laughing right now. She's getting Ricky and all those... You got splaining to do, Lucy.
But, I've been in Jamestown. It's a cute little town. You blink twice, you've driven right through it.
Absolutely.
And you'll pass right through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now, unfortunately, the cops are overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed with the discovery aspect.
How many cops are there? Like 3?
They probably have like 20 cops, maybe 30 tops.
Yeah, those small towns have it. Yeah.
If you go to the police station, there's like 2-3 radio cars. It's a little police station that could be like the size of a Dunkin' Donuts almost.
It's like a sleepy little town.
And so how are these cops going to keep up with tracking down the people that don't show up for
we
court?
can't even do that in New York City, so they can't do that.
They can't keep up with the discovery requirements for the bail reform. Discovery requirement for our people who aren't criminal justice experts. When you arrest someone, prosecution has to provide the defense and the defendant with evidence and other things that have been gathered. And in New York State, it used to take a lot of time was given to it because it's pretty technical. You have lab requests. Michele was a narco ranger for many years. You have to take the drugs and send it to the lab and verify its quantity and potency and so forth. And there's other things. There's digital. In 2020, there's digital media that has to be looked at, redacted.
Now the cops out here are gonna in the city are gonna get digital memo books.
They have digital memo
They're
books.
gonna go digital memo books. So everything, you can't skip pages, you can't do nothing.
Right.
Everything's digitalized. You can't make any entries, anything.
No saving a line for the Sarge.
No saving a line for the boss.
Yeah, so
put that 62p in. That's what I'm saying. I had to go to the bathroom, boss. I'm a female.
And that 62p better line up with the GPS on your phone when you did it.
Yeah, it's just
So
whatever.
So we joke about this. We're joking about having to go to bathroom, and you go to bathroom here. And you said you went to bathroom there in your book.
All technical
which is
stuff.
Minor stuff, but now the prosecution has to provide all this stuff to the defense, and it has to be gone over because there's some things that aren't to be disclosed, some things that are to be disclosed. Somebody has to look at that and make the correction. Our producer Pam just told me there are 60 cops.
60 Jamestown cops protecting that Lucille Ball Hall of Fame.
Wow, that's more than I would have thought, to tell you the truth. That's interesting.
It's a big. I think it's because it's so. If I've never been there, but honestly, and if it's anything like any of those places upstate, it's like so big.
Listen, I insist that you and Billy and Mark make a pilgrimage there
To the Lucille Ball Hall of Fame.
and the comedy museum that they have right there also.
Yeah.
Well, you guys should do we should go up there and do an Inside Blue up in Jamestown. Road trip, right? Road trip. So it's cold up there. We're only going to do it in June or July. We're not going to do it this time of year.
No.
So we've been focusing on bail reform about New York City. Now, New York City's got 30+ thousand cops. The DA's offices have a few thousand employees. The court system has a few thousand employees. There's a lot of resources here in New York City to try to cope with bail reform. A place like Jamestown with 60 cops.
No way.
That's getting overwhelmed with people not showing up for court. Warrants have to be pursued. They can't keep up with the overwhelming onslaught of digital evidence and other evidence that they have to now provide to the defense in 15 days. And it's really not, I don't want to disparage Jamestown. I've been there and I liked it. It's tough for these small towns that are economically challenged. A county like Chautauqua County, right? They don't really have a lot there. They have, and they don't have a big economic driver.
No.
They really rely on the state to fund a lot of things for them.
Well, so they have 60 cops up there, and so everybody up there collared up, it looks like, just about. 107 warrants.
107 warrants.
So then what happens is, because this used to happen in narcotics, we had a chief who made this brainstorm of an idea to create a different platoon for us school team people, and we had to go in at 9 o'clock at night and work till 5 in the some nonsense. They made an extra platoon. But what happened was then the next night, 7 people wouldn't be there because they had court, all different things. The prisoners, somebody got sick, the prisoner got sick, So that's the other resources that they back up. The ones that they actually do get to go to court, now you have to have the cop go, and now there's only 59. And then the other guy took off because his wife's pregnant, so now we're down to 57 cops. Right. And there's always that shady guy that's never coming in. Like the Yankee Stadium detail guys, you didn't see them all year except for like November.
Right.
They're all over.
That's something that people need to understand. It takes a lot of people to run a police department.
It takes a village to run a police department.
And the state has put this burden on the police departments on the court system. And I was in places like Chautauqua County where they don't have any money. They like to say upstate in western New York and in Hudson Valley and in the North Country of New York State. It's another unfunded mandate that Governor Cuomo and the legislature has foisted upon him. And they don't have the money, but the state requires them to do this. So something's going to give. Maybe they're going to have to take the money from school buses. Maybe they're going to get some new school buses. They're not going to be able to buy new school buses. Or they're going to put a new traffic light someplace that was an accident prone location.
Oh, forget about that stuff. Let's just cut the school funding. These kids don't have to read.
Yeah, and,
pay the police.
There's only so much funding
that's
available. And to put this burden on the criminal justice system, I think is going to not just it might not break the criminal justice system. It's going to hurt the criminal justice
Absolutely.
system. But it's going to hurt other systems also. Maybe healthcare, maybe education, maybe just DPW departments in some town or county. The guys that fill potholes.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of 2 crews to fill potholes, they'll only have 1.
Right. So to sum it up, we're going to have one guy doing everything. You're going to have one guy filling the potholes, one guy collecting the garbage, and the bank will be open.
That's community policing, I guess,
That's
right?
right. It's like community policing. You have to have your hands in everything if you want a steady job.
So I wanted to talk about this terrible case that happened by my house in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. A woman was there was an attempted rape on her because she was in a ladies' room of a subway system. Now, people are rolling their eyes as soon as they heard that she's in a ladies' room of the subway system. The victim was a homeless woman.
Right.
So this is where she goes to the bathroom. And you know what? Better than there than on a platform.
Right.
Or on a stairs.
They're not the most sanitary places, but sometimes you have to use them.
So the perpetrator in this case had been in jail, and in December he was being held for a couple different charges. He was being held on bail, and there was a review of his case done because of the impending bail reform that was coming on January 1st, and the district attorney's office, together with the court, decided to release him.
Yeah.
So he goes and he's out because of bail reform, and he commits this crime.
Heinous crime.
So I live in a pretty sleepy neighborhood for anybody who lives outside of New York City, New York State. I live in Bay Ridge, which is the neighborhood that was made famous in Saturday Night Fever, and it's a pretty sleepy neighborhood.
It's sleepy now because Jerry doesn't wear that suit anymore. Out at the discotheque.
I added a necktie, so that's
the discoteca.
I was actually a rock and roll guy, but in any event, the neighborhood was upset. I mean,
of course.
This is an attempted rape. I had actually passed through that station about an hour and a half before this crime happened. I was actually coming here to one of our previous episodes of Inside Blue 360, and. It's a little, it rattles your cage. I've got a wife. I worry about my wife, right? Other people are worried about their daughters and sisters and their wives and their moms. And certainly, this guy, his name is Arjun Tyler. He's 20 years old. Arjun was being held for a reason.
Right.
I think people think that people were being held for just for arbitrary reasons or for
sometimes the system
and giggles.
Right. Sometimes the system backs up, and there are those cases that are people who are in there for a little bit longer than they should be, and they're very few and far between. But when the news picks up on it, it's a whole big thing. But this is people use the subways every single day. This is the only way to really get around the city, and I don't know what's going on, but like last week they had these protests in the subway. That was phenomenal. But they did it in Grand Central, and they didn't, and I don't know if they did it in Penn, but they did it in Grand Central. And one of their things is that they feel like they're getting, like, the people that live here, they're getting gentrified out of their neighborhoods because everything's too expensive, and they said that the subway should be free. And I would love for the subway to be free. It almost was free for me today because my Metro card didn't work. But, like, there's a lot of people who are really pissed off about a lot of things. And, they feel like that the way the system's going, there's all these little offshoots of groups, and they Twitter each other like we're gonna put glue in the,
yes.
So they do vandalism. So that's not the way to get. I'm not going to give out the group's names, but all you got to do is Google it and you find anything out.
Or if you're on social media, just look at the hashtag FTP, which means fuck the police.
Right. I actually didn't want to give them any. What they did though is they got into the court system somehow,
right.
and they slipped these pamphlets in the dockets,
right.
And and there was a guy who wrote back to him and said, listen, I understand you. I'm pissed about the subway, too, because quite honestly, it's not our fault. Like that, we have MTA cops now watching the subway. That's not our decision. I'm sure that's not Chief Delatorre's decision. He's the chief of transit, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
It's not his decision. I think that comes from Governor Cuomo. So maybe it might be a good idea, like to just maybe go up there and protest, because that's really where it's coming from. It doesn't. Chief Delatorre does not like really care. He doesn't need other people coming to police his subway station.
Right.
So in a way, I understand what they mean. Like, why are you spending more money on cops? Yeah, you're right. Why are we? When we have NYPD cops, why do we have to go up and get the MTA guys?
So one of the issues that
they don't even know what to do. They don't. I honestly, and I know this for a reason. I know a lot of MTA cops. I know the MTA ESU person. I know an MTA K9, and I know a regular MTA patrol officer. And none of them, they go to a separate academy. They go to a different academy. Sometimes it's in Westchester. Sometimes it's on Long Island. They go to a different academy where they're treated like adults. And they're taught, now this is what we have. We have the federal system, the federal railroads. It's a lot of training that goes in there. Now, it's different from our transit academy. They don't go to the transit academy for a reason. So that's why you're taking, they should be doing the lines that they're in charge of.
So a lot of people here don't know that Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio have not been getting along.
No, they don't like each other at all.
So Governor Cuomo has put in about 500 troopers into New York City. Now, I'm a little north of 40 years old by 2 decades, and I can tell you that I've never in my life, had I ever seen troopers in New York City. As a matter of fact, just to go back almost 19 years, on the night, like at about 3 a.m. of September 12th, there were like 1,000 troopers in New York City, and we needed them, because we took a hell of a shot. I didn't know where they all came from. I used to think that there were only like 100 troopers in the whole state that just policed me driving up to Hunter Mountain to go skiing. And they flooded them down here. I'd never seen so many troopers in my life, but we don't need them here because we've got so many cops. They need them upstate. Sometimes in counties upstate,
that's a supplement.
There's one trooper for 2 counties on the midnight to 8 shift. Just one. These counties are like the size of Rhode Island, for crying out loud.
I know. They're big.
Yeah. And so, but Cuomo wanted them here in the city so that, he could show that he's got a policing presence. He himself has a policing presence here in New York City. So now he's got this, he's putting the MTA cops in. I can tell you, though, I've heard from other people that there was a little side issue on this MTA cop thing. The Local 100, which is the Transit Workers Union, which is like 95% people of color, was screaming at Governor Cuomo for more policing in the subway system, because if you remember, about 6 months ago, there was a big rash of subway train operators and conductors getting assaulted.
Right.
So they were like, hey, we can't have our people getting spit at, punched in the face, kicked, having bottles thrown at them, all these things. So Cuomo, probably sensitive to a huge union, Cuomo runs for election. He's going to run again. He's not term limited out. Mayor de Blasio is term limited out. So people have told me that part of this issue is Cuomo trying to make nice to Local 100, the Transit Workers Union.
Well, so the bottom line is don't bust up the subways, because now we have to get people all that money that you want to ride for free. It's got to go to people to clean them and put them back in service. And the other thing too is I live in the suburbs. I would love to live in the confines of the city, but it's too expensive, and it's not. Everybody blames the police for everything, but meanwhile it's a lot of banks. It's It's everything that gets that just drives the it's not even the economy. No, it's too expensive to live here.
So it is very expensive to live here.
It's too expensive. And I'm not saying, I would love to have free subway rides, but, maybe we got to work on a few other things, like cleaning them up, getting them to work properly like they were doing when Andy Byford was around. And now, I don't know, I didn't lean on my subway door this morning because I was afraid it was going to open. Because Andy took all those cars out. He stood up he did what he had to do. But, this guy, everybody's got a big ego.
I actually had a little subway save this morning. Our producer, Phil, would appreciate this. He's a former subway tunnel rat, transit cop. Kid with a backpack, had his backpack stuck in the door as we started pulling out of the station. So I freaking grabbed him as hard as I could, and I yanked him into the car, and the doors closed. And as Phil would know, the train shouldn't have moved with the doors a foot ajar.
But that's because Andy's not here anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not, so like there's a lot of little things and people, the other thing is you have to become educated. Sometimes I come up after a show, there's nothing on TV, I go home and I throw on, and it's like C-SPAN, and I watch the state legislature, and it's boring. But I'm like, wow, they're doing that to our groundwater? Son of a gun. These are things that they show. Nobody watches it during the day. It's like the school budget. They always reissue the school budget when everybody's on vacation, so it passes. Out on Long Island.
Can we do our podcast like C-SPAN? Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Right, like
welcome
this is NPR.
to Inside Blue 360.
We're going to crochet
I'm Jerry
later.
Kane.
Yes, that's Jerry.
I was actually on NPR
We're
once.
going to crochet later.
Interviewed about something or other, and like the person's talking to me like this, and I'm like, yeah, it was like, bye.
It sounds like fun. Yeah. Now we're going to talk about police issues.
That's exactly what it was like.
We are going to edit this, right? We are going to talk about police brutality.
Well, we don't want to mock our fellow broadcasters at NPR.
No, we don't want to mock anybody. We're just joking around. I can.
NPR.
I do have that license because I'm a comedian, so I can do it. It's all in fun.
And I have that license because once I pass 60 years old, I figure I got old man rights.
Right.
Yes.
Right. But there's a lot of, the bottom line is there's a lot of these groups that are out there and they're getting pissed. Somebody said something last week or a few weeks ago and they told people that didn't come from New York to go back home. And so maybe politically not everybody agrees with the guy. I kind of like that statement because it's true. It's like, dude, this guy's coming from Iowa. How do you afford to live there?
Well, mommy and daddy. Of course.
But I mean, so I can understand. And you want your neighborhood. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. The Starbucks on the corner, replaced the bodega on the corner because that guy can't, afford to stay in business after 30-something years. It's just, it's everything.
So Michelle hits on a really good point about how police get pulled into every issue.
Right.
Every social issue, every economic issue, every issue there is. People's personal issues inside their homes. Everything that people are thinking about and
everything is the police's fault.
It somehow or other falls into the laps of the police.
Yep.
So the economic changes in the city are tremendous. Where I live, where we just talked about this attempted rape, Bay Ridge was a solid middle class neighborhood. I bought my home when I was on a job when I bought my home from a firefighter, and I'm kind of not happy about this. When I sell my home, there's no way a cop or a firefighter is going to buy my house.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
And so what does that say for the city? A city that used to have a lot of great middle-class neighborhoods is now just going to have poor neighborhoods and rich neighborhoods.
Well, it's maybe I noted today that crime's going up. I noticed that. I read it. I didn't notice it.
Yes.
Crime's going up. Somebody heads are going to roll there at that Comstat.
So
throw some chairs around.
So the Comstat numbers are out.
Ooh, this makes me
yeah.
have seizures looking at this nonsense.
So it's interesting because since January 1st, crime overall is up 13%. That is a double-digit increase, is a significant increase. Now, there's a lot of factors. I don't really remember what the weather was like last January. It's been mild this January.
Yes.
So if this is milder January and people are out on the street more, that could be an indicator of a thing that could lead to higher crime. But the thing that kills me is the spike in GLAs, Grand Larceny Auto, which has been going down forever, since like 93. Great part of that credit goes to the police department, and a great part of the credit for that goes to the car manufacturers who make it harder to steal cars. Up 67% last month.
I think it's because people can't make their car payments. People can't make their car payments in this economy, and they go, oh, the car's stolen, so I think it might be insurance fraud.
Yeesh.
That's what I think. Oops. Yeesh. Not that many cars. I mean, come on. Everybody's got the lock. If you have the keys in your car, the keys are in your house, the car dies, at 30. It's not like back in the day with the low jack when it was behind the garage and you had to get a search warrant to get it out, and then you found out they weren't reliable. This could very well be an economical, because crime is driven by poverty.
Crime is driven by poverty. not by anything else. You're 100,000% correct. Mm-hmm. You know what? We should repeat that every episode. Crime is driven
That's
by
right.
poverty.
We're the richest country, but yet we have a homeless problem. That's like crazy.
Right.
And not just here, everywhere. Like
Right.
like where? Like Seattle, California. They said San Diego is like, and crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what state you're in,
No.
what city you're in. It doesn't matter what the ethnic or
No.
racial background is. If people are poor, they're committing crime.
That's right.
Right. Right.
Not all poor people commit crime.
No, but when you got to put food on the table.
Right. You got to do what you got to do. Sometimes you need diapers.
Right.
I used to love it when like the Rite Aid used to call. They go, "We holding one." It was a guy with diapers and formula. Get the fuck out of here.
Right.
I'm not locking this guy
I
up.
wouldn't lock that guy up either.
No.
Right.
Freaking Bronx. You bothering me with this shit?
Right. I'll lock you up, you say
I
to the
said,
guy,
you know
right?
what?
Yeah.
I'm going to give you something to call the police for.
Michele brings it.
I hated nonsense like that.
No,
They're
that's
boring.
that is.
Don't waste my time
So
anymore.
you know, listen. You're right. However, not everybody who's poor and committing crime is stealing baby formula.
That's
and
right.
diapers.
Sometimes they steal diamonds and money and drugs.
Right.
Drugs are good too because you could sell them.
Right. And
I have an idea to fix the subway. I know how you can do this and make the marijuana legal and make that money go to the subway. Everybody will be happy. I'm telling you right now. You know what?
Right.
Governor Cuomo, he's doing what? Oh, we're going to pass it. We're going to pass it. Well, how about we pass it and we throw some money to the subways and the schools like the lottery system?
yeah, I mean, it's practically legal as it is now anyway.
I hope it is.
No one gets arrested for it.
No.
It's all over the place. You smell it everywhere. And I think I told you a couple weeks ago, I was in Colorado.
And he smoked a vape. Yeah. Jerry vaped.
And I did not smell, and I was
That's
out
'cause
there
they have
for 4
edibles.
days because of edibles.
Edibles.
And I was like, the second day there, I'm like, where is all the marijuana smoke? Marijuana's legal here. And they're like, no, everybody uses edibles and gummies.
Gummies.
Everybody's got marijuana gummies.
Gummies.
Yeah.
You got to get your hands on the gummies.
So probably for people like me, like old cranky men like me who yell at the sky, hey, get off
It
my
works
lawn.
good. Believe
right?
me, it works good for you.
So my neighbors who smoke pot and aggravate me when I'm in my backyard smoking my cigar, saying like the freaking hippies. Now they'll just be eating gummies and not bothering.
But they can throw a little weed and make a little blunt for you, and you'd be happy again. You'd be happy living in Brooklyn.
Michele,
And you'll never want to leave after you make friends with those guys.
I'm like an extra dry Tito's guy with a twist.
I hear
Yeah,
you.
so, you know,
Okay, all
you
right.
know.
Whatever floats your boat. But
Look at me, I'm wearing a freaking tie for crying out loud.
yeah, that's all right. I locked up heroin addicts in ties. Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, actually, probably Wall Street people.
I
Right?
never locked up anybody wearing a tie for heroin.
Never.
No,
Not once.
No.
Oh, gosh.
No, No, we never do. The same people all the time. Same people. So you just want to give them the paperwork and say, dude, can you fill it out again? Because I forgot. Fill out this 250 too. You know how the paperwork goes.
So I guess we'll wrap up this week and say that the people who think that the police are the problem for everything, give us a break. We're just out here to keep you from killing each other.
Mm-hmm. Nobody, don't stop busting up the subway.
Stop
because
busting up the subway.
I need
Yes.
to get home. I need to get across town to get to gigs. You can't be busting
Right.
up the subway. And I'm not taking those Ubers and Lyfts.
No, Uber's too expensive. I take the subway also.
I'm
Yes.
taking the subway, public transportation. So you're not doing us any good by, jamming the stuff up with glue. They got pictures of the guys on.
Right.
There's cameras everywhere, guys.
And my Metro card barely works as it is.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. You want me to use my phone, but like I almost, sometimes you do have to fix those Metro card things. I'm not saying I jumped over the turnstile, but I mean,
That must have been quite a jump for you, Michele.
the Asian woman next to me was just like watching me do it. You can't go and you can't reverse back because the thing gets jammed.
You disappointed her. That and the
She
fact
just
that you
looked
gotta
at
see
me
in
and
history.
watched me do it for 5 minutes, and I'm like, don't you have something else to do? Oh my goodness!
And I guess finally, I can predict that next week we'll probably be talking about bail reform.
Yep,
again.
bail reform again.
Because until they fix it, and I don't see that they're going to fix it yet. If they fix it, it'll probably be March 30th when they do the budget, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. So
It's like,
That's it. You know, that's it in a nutshell.
That's it.
So we'll see you next week. Please go to MichelleDurant.com, right? That's your website? What's your website?
.net. MichelleDurant.net.
MichelleDurant.net, please. And see my partner in her comedy show.
Yes. Thanks, guys. Have a good week.